Hey, how's it going, guys? Should be starting up right now. Give me 1 second. Let me tweet out the stream. Sorry, starting a couple minutes late here. So just bear with me 1 second, and then we'll get into it. Quick recap last night. Last night went really well. I had a lot of people message me. They won some good money. A couple people won some small GPPs. Again, it was a really, really solid night overall. For me, min cash in tournaments, but I'll take it. So yeah, it was a really, really pretty solid night. Just tweet out the live stream. So, all right, let's jump into it. Let me make sure this is all set. Should be good. All right. I might have to refresh this actually. So the comments aren't loading, so just bear with me 1 second. All right, should be good now. All right, so let's go over the news real quick. The big news we're waiting on is Ibaka. He's actually playing, which is honestly somewhat of a surprise. He arrived in a walking boot, but he's going to play. So that obviously takes Chris Boucher out of play. I mentioned him as potential value for the slate. Not anymore. Now with Ibaka playing. And that's really it. Ibaka won't have a minutes limit. And Raptors are starting their normal starters. Celtics are starting their normal starters. DK, they go, what's up, Cam? How's it going, man? Doing a Nuggets Clippers stack. Yeah, that's fine. Because the first game is obviously two really good defensive teams. This is just, I do not like this two-game slate. I know you guys know that, but Toronto, Boston, two good defensive teams. You have Clippers, Nuggets. Hard to kind of nail down what the rotations are going to be on a night-to-night basis for some of the value plays. So it's just, I feel like it's a slate that you're guessing on a lot, and I just don't like that. So never like super confident in this two-game slate. So all right, if you guys are new though and you enjoy the content, would really appreciate if you hit that like button. If you guys are in here right now, appreciate if you hit that like button. Subscribe if you haven't already as well. So let's start with Toronto here. They got blown out last game. Obviously, they were chalk, Lowry, and Van Fleet, and they both busted. I'm not really worried here. I like both. I think I slightly prefer Van Fleet for his price at 7.5. I do not think they get blown out again. Van Fleet kind of salvaged today a little bit in garbage time, but yeah, I prefer right now Van Fleet to Lowry for the $700 difference, just because they're they're almost identical plays to me, and we have $700 difference. I'm just gonna prefer the one that's cheaper. Now I do think Van Fleet will probably be a little bit higher owned than Lowry. I have interest in both. I've played both like the last 4 slates. Right now, my build right now is I only have one, but I do like both of them for their prices. Right, they're do-it-all guys. They'll play 40-plus minutes. Yeah, I like both the Raptors guards. I still prefer them to Siakam once again. Siakam's another guy that will play over 40 minutes. All three of these guys will play over 40 minutes. Again, it's a do or die here. I think the Raptors bounce back. So I have interest in all three. I still prefer the guards slightly to Siakam, but all three are certainly playable. All three are at playable prices too. 7.5 for Van Fleet, I think looks pretty good. 8.2 for Lowry, not bad. Siakam under 8K. All three are certainly in play here. I think the ownership drops due to the fact that they got blown out last game, right? This last slate, Lowry and Van Fleet were both like 70% owned. We're not going to get that again because of the blowout. They're going to come down, I don't know, 40 to 50%-ish. Around there would be my best guess. So that's what I think about the main guys. OG is just fine in the mid-range. He'll play 35 or so minutes around there. He's out there for his defense. Probably not going to kill you, but probably not going to, win you a GPP either. I think, again, 30, 35-ish minutes, somewhere between like 20 to mid-30s in fancy points. He's a fine play. Not like super excited about it. Ibaka's going to play at 5.5. He's going to be super low owned. So he's still a contrarian play even at 5.5. Just people will not. He was already low owned in the series. He needs to be lower owned because of the ankle. Again, he can get you there in 22 minutes, but he has to be super productive. So I think Ibaka's playable, but I don't know if I'm going to prioritize him. Gasol, I mean, you're not going to feel good about playing Marc Gasol at all. He only played 14 minutes last game, again, basically due to the blowout. I think normally we get about 25 or so minutes at 4-1. I think he's a perfectly fine value play. Let's see. Powell intrigues me as he's a riskier option. He played 31 minutes due to the blowout last game and because of Siakam foul trouble. Well, the thing is, if anyone 1 through 4 on Toronto gets in foul trouble, Norman Powell's coming in because they run a 7-man rotation. Ibaka backs up Gasol, and then there's just Powell. So if 1 through 4, if Lowry, Van Fleet, OG, or Siakam, if any of those guys get in foul trouble, it's Norman Powell coming in, right? It was Siakam that got in foul trouble last game. Norman Powell came in. Played, obviously got extended a bit, though, because of the blowout, but still. Like, he will benefit if one of those top 4 guys get into some foul trouble. Either way, I think we get normally 15 to 20 minutes. Like, that's playable at under 4K. He's risky play. He doesn't do a whole lot besides score the ball, so the floor is low, like we've seen basically the entire series besides that last game. So Powell intrigues me. He's a guy that I think has GPP winning upside at a price of 3.9. Like, he can definitely go for 25 to 30 if he's hitting his shots. So he's a risky option, but certainly playable. That's it. Don't play anyone else here because they basically run a 7-man rotation. Like Matt Thomas maybe plays a couple minutes. Maybe Boucher gets like a couple minutes, but not enough to consider him now with Ibaka playing. So that's really what I got there on Boston, or not Boston, on Toronto. Who's your top value? I'll get to that in a bit. So let's go on to Boston now. Jason Tatum's at 9.3. He's not in your optimal build, right? I think the optimal build today is one of the Toronto guards, Jokic, probably Paul George. Like, I think that's, I mean, you could argue Kemba maybe, but Tatum's just a little bit pricey, and with there being not a lot of great value on this slate, obviously, it makes it a little bit harder to get to him. Like, it makes it harder to get to Kawhi. They're both going to be lower owned because of their price tags. Tatum has yet to really break the slate, besides was that second game where we went for 55. He's been solid, but hasn't really had that huge upside. It's in there. He will play over 40 minutes as long as he stays out of foul trouble and the game stays close. So Tatum intrigues me. I've personally played him like the last 4 slates. I'll probably do it again just because I don't want the one time I get off him and then he'll go crazy. Like, that will just be terrible. So I'll probably just continue playing Tatum. He's a contrarian option in my opinion. I don't think he's in the optimal build, but he's definitely someone I'm considering. I think he will be low owned again. He's never really been high owned on this 2-game slate. I think like 25-ish% for Tatum would be my best guess. Kemba's at 8.1. So for his price, like, I still prefer him to Jaylen Brown. Even though Jaylen Brown is coming in like double the ownership of Kemba the last couple slates, I still prefer Kemba. I think the floor is a little bit higher with his assist. I think he has a little bit more upside than Jaylen Brown. So I do still slightly prefer Kemba to Brown. Brown's fine at 7.6. He's probably going to be the most popular Boston spend up just for his price, right? 7.6, he's the most playable, the easiest guy to get to. And forward, like, there's not a lot of like amazing plays in the mid-range, so I think Brown is going to be a guy that's going to be in a lot of the optimal builds as well. I'm fine getting away from it. He doesn't really get you a lot of assists. It's scoring and rebounding, and if he's struggling scoring the ball, like, the floor is pretty low, right? He shot 4 of 18 and put up 24 fantasy points. So the floor is somewhat low. That's why I slightly prefer Kemba. I think his floor is a little bit higher than Brown due to his assist. But yeah, no real issue if you get to Brown. He will be, in my opinion, probably the most popular spend up on Boston. Marcus Smart's at 6.5. He's getting like decent ownership on the slate, like 20 to 30%. I'm still fine passing on it. Like, if he's the last piece in your lineup, I would, he's kind of like a Robert Covington last slate, right? Covington was the last piece of my lineup. It just kind of worked, so I threw him in there. That's kind of how I feel about Marcus Smart. Like, the minutes will be there. He's more out there for his defense. I'm probably not going to do it. As far as Daniel Tice goes, 25 to 30 minutes. Probably 20 to 30 fantasy points is what you'll get out of Tice. So, yeah, playable. Robert Williams worries me. He only played 9 minutes last game. This is a tricky one because we don't know what his minutes going to be. It could be 15 to 20 like we've seen most of the series, or it could go to 9 like last game. So it's a super, super risky play. The minutes aren't necessarily guaranteed here. Yeah, it's a super big risk. I feel more comfortable right now getting to a guy like probably Pat Beverly, right? I at least know Pat Bev is going to play like 20 minutes. Whereas Robert Williams, there's a chance he only plays like 8-9 minutes, like we saw that last game. He's a good fantasy point per minute guy, but I'm unsure what Brad Stevens is going to do. And then Wanamaker, kind of out of nowhere, played 28 minutes the last game. After basically being phased out of the rotation, I mean, he played 9, 12, and then 13 minutes, and 28 out of nowhere. So how many minutes do we get out of Wanamaker? How many do we get out of Robert Williams? I don't know. If Wanamaker gets over 20 minutes, he's certainly playable at 3.5. But are we going to get that for sure? I don't think it's necessarily guaranteed, and I'm going to say that about a lot of guys. Starting with a couple of these Boston guys, then we'll get to Denver, we'll get to LA. That's a headache. You guys know that if you've been playing this 2-game slate, and that's kind of how I feel about Wanamaker and Robert Williams. I don't know what the merits going to be. So they're both playable. You kind of got to get lucky and hope they get extended. Because if you play Brad Wanamaker and he plays 10 minutes, he's not going to get you there. If you play Robert Williams and he plays 9 minutes, he's not going to get you there. But if you play Wanamaker and he gets extended to 20 plus, you play Robert Williams, he gets 15 to 20, they have a pretty good chance of getting value. So you kind of got to get lucky and hope they get the minutes. I'm not going to play Grant Williams or Ojale on this slate. I just don't have to do it. So that's my thoughts on Boston. I think Jaylen Brown will be the highest owned of the bunch due to the fact that he's the cheapest. I still slightly prefer Kemba to Brown. Tatum's a more contrarian option for his price, but someone I'm probably going to get to because I played in the last 3 or 4 slates. Smart's a guy I'm going to pass in the mid-range, and then Tice is fine. 20 to 30 fantasy points is probably where you're going to get out of him. Williams, Wanamaker are in play for value, but a little bit risky because their minutes aren't guaranteed. Let's talk about the Clippers. So, Kawhi Leonard, like Jason Tatum, this is like the exact same analysis I have, is I like him for the fact that he's going to be low-owned, because 10-3, he's not going to fit in your optimal build. He's just not. So, I like him for the reason of we'll probably get 20% owned Kawhi again, like we've gotten like the last 3 or 4 slates here. Kawhi's a guy that has been really, really consistent. And the upside is, like, he can go for 60 plus. It's a little bit tougher to get to him. So I like him for the fact that he's going to be low owned, but what do you have to sacrifice to get him in, right? Whereas Paul George is about $2,000 cheaper. He's probably going to fit more in the optimal build, right, at 8.5. Both will play about 40 minutes in a close game. Obviously, Kawhi's a little bit higher upside, but you get 2K discount, and there's not a lot of great value. So Paul George is probably your optimal play here of the 2 Clippers forwards. It does make it a little bit tricky, to be honest, that I haven't listed shooting guard, because there's a lot of, I think there's better guard plays in the slate than there are forwards, so a little bit tough that Draftkings listed him as a shooting guard. Yeah, I think he is probably the slightly better option due to the fact of he's $2,000 cheaper. Now, Paul George has struggled. Again, he's been a little bit more up and down. Kawhi's been more consistent, but you're going to have to pay a couple extra $1,000. Lou Williams at 5'8", playable price. He'll play close to 30 minutes. I still would rather play Lou than Marcus Smart for the discount. He's a guy that just has more upside than Marcus Smart, in my opinion. Smart, you're going to get the consistent minutes. Lou Williams won't get as many minutes, but he has the potential to go for 40 plus, right? If he's really shooting well, he has that type of upside. We're not really getting him at a great discount, so I don't know if he fits in your optimal build, but I like him in the mid-range. Like, of the guys around his price, he probably has the most upside. So I'm still intrigued by Lou. Marcus Morris, I like at 4.9. Price is slowly coming down on him. He was 5.7 a few slates ago. Now he's down to 4.9. He'll play 35-ish minutes, around there, 30 to 35. And he's a more do-it-all guy. I know he had a pretty bad game, 2 games ago, he went for 14 fantasy points. Not super worried about it. I think he stands out at 4.9. I think he makes for a pretty decent play kind of as a cheaper option. With Zubac and Montrez, this is where we get to now the headache for the Clippers rotation. And JaMychal Green. We got the 3-headed monster there of the bigs. What are the minutes going to be like? I have absolutely no idea. Again, it's a guessing game here. What happens with Zubac? Well, he fouled out in 22 minutes. He was on pace to play more, but fouled out. Does he close? Do they close with Harrell, which is a possibility? Or do they close with JaMychal Green, which they did a couple games ago? Your guess is as good as mine. It's whatever Doc Rivers does, and it's literally just a complete guessing game. So if Zubac plays 20 minutes, I don't like him as much. If he plays closer to 30, he becomes a really solid play, but they're not guaranteed. And the same thing goes with Harrell. I would still, I'd probably rather play Zubac over Harrell. I think he has a little bit more upside with minutes compared to Harrell, and he's been a little bit better point per minute guy. So Harrell's probably not a guy I'm going to look to unless you think the game blows out at 4-4. And then finally, JaMychal Green. Another guy, the minutes are just a little bit more up in the air. I think we get at least 14 to 15 minutes. I think that's his floor minutes-wise, unless something crazy happens. He has upside to go for 20 plus, like we saw 2 games ago, 26. It's just, who is going to be in the closing lineup? I have no idea. So if he plays 15, probably not going to get you there at 3-7. But if he plays mid-20s minutes, he'll most likely get you value. So another one, you kind of just have to get lucky with these Clippers bigs. You have to guess right on who's going to be in the closing lineup. And literally, it's just like you throw a dart because I have no idea what Doc Rivers is going to do. Now, Pat Beverly's at 3-6. I feel a little bit better about him. I know he had that floor game 2 games ago, but we're going to get about 20 minutes from him. Unless he fouls out in 10 minutes, which is possible. He's a guy that's always in foul trouble. But I feel like we will get a close to 20 minutes from Pat Bev, 3-6. He's someone that I'm looking to for value. It's not an amazing play, but I feel a little bit better targeting Beverly than I do trying to guess in one of those bigs because I just feel a little bit more comfortable with Pat Beverly's minutes. Don't play Reggie Jackson or Shamet unless you think the game blows out. Either way, I don't think I would target these guys. And that's really it for the Clippers. So let's finish up with Denver and try to figure out what Mike Malone's going to do with this rotation. What we do know is Jokic and Murray will play the big minutes. Jokic is going to be popular tonight. And I agree. It's a much better matchup here against Zubac, Harrell, Green than it was against Rudy Gobert. He'll play about 40 minutes. He's their go. Him and Jamal Murray, we know where their offense is coming from. Yeah, he's had 60 the last couple slates. He wasn't super, super high owned. He's going to go up in ownership. Whereas the Raptors guys are going to go down. I think Jokic gets maybe closer to 50% owned. He's going to be popular today. But I have no issue eating the chalk on him. It's just, there's still an outside chance this game doesn't stay close. They need a big game from Jokic if they're going to stay in it. If not, like we saw the first game, when Jokic struggled, they got blown out. So you could still play the blowout factor. I did that in game 1. It worked out. I had a lot of people win GPPs with that stance. I still think it's viable, but the first game is tricky because it doesn't have a lot of upside due to the fact that both teams are so good defensively. So it's just kind of an ugly slate in that aspect. You can game stack, but it's not going to be pretty, and if the other game does stay close, you're screwed. So Jokic is definitely one of the, of Jokic, Kawhi Leonard, and Tatum, I think Jokic is your optimal spend up of the really pricey guys. So yeah, I think Jokic is a perfectly good play there at his price. Murray's at 8-6. Price is slowly coming down. He shot the ball bad, 5 of 17, still put up 36 fancy points. So the upside is there on Murray, whereas Jokic, the floor is higher. Murray, his ceiling's probably higher. Again, the range of outcomes for Jamal Murray is pretty big, right? I would say a floor about 25-ish. Ceiling of 60 plus in this matchup. So he will be lower owned too by far. Jokic is going to be a lot more popular. I would say at least 3 times more popular than Jamal Murray. So I think Jamal Murray's playable, but he's definitely a riskier option. MPJ, this is where we get into the headache. What is Mike Malone going to do? I have no idea. The minutes are up and down on him. He could play 15. He could play minutes in the mid-20s. We saw him have a crazy game last time out, 23 minutes, 40 fancy points. I don't know if we get that level of production again, and I don't know how many minutes we get. If he plays 25 to 30, he looks like a lot better play, but Mike Malone is not scared to get to pull him out and give him 15 minutes. So it's a risk. The ownership's going to be up on him too. He's going to be a lot higher owned. So this is one that I would be okay fading. The upside is there, MPJ. He's a really good offensive player, but I think the ownership will be high enough where, there's still a chance he only plays 15 minutes. And if he's going to be, pretty popular, I would be okay getting away from him. So know the risk, right? There is a risk that he only plays 15 minutes. If that's the case, he's not going to get you there 5-2. If he gets extended a bit, if Malone leaves him out there a bit, then he has better chance to get value. So another riskier play, Grant, the minutes will be there, but he's a super low usage guy right now in this offense. In 42 minutes, 15 fancy points. Not an amazing play, but at least with him, the minutes will be there. So he's playable at 5-1. Millsap's a 4-8. His minutes are a little bit more up in the air, 24, 32, 28. I know that 24 was in a blowout. I think Normally, we get close to 30 minutes, but you'd never feel great about it because it is Mike Malone as his coach, and we saw what happened in the first series where he played like 15 minutes. Now, sure, right, it's a different matchup. He does match up better against his Clippers team. So Millsap's a guy that was super popular last night. He was like 60% in the higher dollar tournaments. I'm fine going back to the well with him. The ownership will drop, so I think Millsap's a perfectly fine play there at 4.8. Harris is playable as well. He played 35 minutes last time out. Did have 4 steals and 6 assists. A little bit more of an outlier performance from him. Normally, he's a guy that kind of does 3 and D, right? He's got to hit his threes, and that's about it. So, risky play. The floor is low, but if he gets 30-plus minutes, he's certainly playable, even at 4-6. So, I do have a little bit of interest there in Harris. The other guys, like Monte Morris, him and Pat Beverly is going to be probably at least double the ownership of Monte Morris. They're similar plays, so if you want to get different and go Monte Morris over Pat Beverly, I'm fine with that. Again, I think Pat Bev will be at least double the ownership of Morris. Both are similar. Both will play around 20 minutes. So they're very similar plays. I think Pat Beverly will be a lot higher owned than Monte Morris. Craig's not a guy I'm going to get to. Plumlee is playable, but you really need the Jokic foul trouble. So it's a super risky play. If Jokic does not get in foul trouble, he'll play 10 minutes. Or if you're taking a stand this game blows out, you could go to Plumlee because he'll play about 15 or so. And that's the case, you can probably get you there at 3-2. So that's really it for the breakdown. Again, guys, this is a really tricky 2-game slate. Not one I'm confident in. Like 2-game slates in general, you should take it easy. This one I'm especially taking it easy just because the rotations for a lot of the teams, 3 of the 4 teams besides Toronto, are a little bit inconsistent, right? With Boston, we don't know what the minutes are going to be like for Wanamaker. We don't know what they're going to be like for Robert Williams. On the Clippers, what's going to happen with the big rotation of Harrell, Zubac, and JaMychal Green, right? And Lou Williams, the minutes are still a little bit up and down on him. Marcus Morris, like not necessarily guaranteed, so it's like kind of a headache there. On the Denver side, how many minutes is MPJ going to play? What is Millsap going to get? It's a trickier one. So that's really my breakdown for this slate. Real quick though, again, we're at almost 300 viewers. If you guys enjoy the content, enjoy the stream, hit that like button. It really does help me out. Yes, I will give you guys a core. So the way I'm attacking it is I am using players in both games. I'm not really game stacking this one. It's definitely possible, but I'm going to go once again on the Fred VanVleet. And I think Jokic, he's going to be popular, but at 9-9, like, if Denver has any chance of staying in this game, it's going to be because of Nikola Jokic. So I think he looks good at his price. Let's see, who else do I want to give? I'll go Pat Bev for value. Like, if you want to go Monte Morris, that's fine, but I think 20-ish minutes out of Pat Beverly at 3-6. At least we know, like, I feel like I know the minutes will be at about 20, so I'll go Pat Beverly. If you want to go Monte Morris, that's fine too. And then lastly, let's see, who else do I want to give? I'm going to go Marcus Morris. Not a really sexy play, but he's 4-9. We'll get probably 30 to 35 minutes. I think he makes for a pretty decent value option. So we'll go Marcus Morris, and we'll throw that in for the core. So 2 Clippers guys, 1 Raptor, and 1 Nugget in there. 6K remaining. You guys can kind of go about that as you will. Yeah, OG or Tice for cash. I think it's going to be OG for me, just because the minutes upside are a little bit higher on him than it is Daniel Tice. I think this is the night for Toronto. Yeah, I think Toronto bounces back here, for sure. Gasol or Zubac? Zubac has more upside. It just, does he play 20-ish minutes? Does he get closer to 30? So if you're going for the upside, it's Zubac, and hopefully he gets extended. Gasol's playable at 4-1. Like, full disclosure, I'm playing Marc Gasol. Do I feel good about that? Absolutely not. But he's 4.1K. So that's kind of what I think of that. If the later game blows out and you think Bev and Grant get the garbage run, Pat Beverly will not get garbage run. Jeremy Grant? No, I don't think he gets garbage run either. I don't think either get garbage run. Kemba, Fred VanVleet, or George and Brown? I'll go Kemba and Fred VanVleet. Do you like Lowry, VanVleet, Brown, Tatum, Gasol, Pat Bev? Morris, Zubac in PPG? Yeah, that's fine. You're stacking the first game. No real issue with that. Are you playing Tatum? Yeah, I'm playing Tatum. I know he's not the optimal play, but he'll be 25-ish% owned. I'm just hoping I get an upside game from Tatum. MPJ or Millsap and GPP, it's got to be MPJ, right? 'Cause he has more upside than Millsap, but it's just how many minutes does he get? You get into Powell. I'm not, but I do have interest in Norman Powell. Like, if 1 through 4, if any of those guys get in foul trouble for Toronto, Norman Powell will get extended. And 3.9 is at a playable price. So, like, does the breakout game finally come here for Powell? It's possible. So, Powell's a guy that intrigues me. Like, under 4K, he probably has the most upside, right? Of all the guys below 4K, it's just, he's got to get a shot going. Because I don't really know if anyone has that type of, like, GBP, like, to break the slate. Like, Robert Williams, we're not going to get huge minutes, so I don't know if he can break the slate. I don't think Monte Morris or Pat Beverly really do either, or Brad Wanamaker. Like, Powell's the guy that can. He can go for 30, but the floor is also low. So, tricky one there with Powell, but I do have interest. Powell or JaMychal Green. Again, if you're shooting for the upside, it's going to be Norman Powell for me. Jokic, let's see, Millsap or Morris in GPP. I would rather get to Marcus Morris. I just feel a little bit more comfortable right now with his minutes. Powell or Beverly. I think it's Pat Beverly in cash if you're shooting for the upside, Powell. But again, guys, the floor is super, super low on Norman Powell. Like, he has a floor of about 10 fantasy points. Monte Morris, Robert Williams, or Powell for cash. Of those three guys right now, it's got to be Monte Morris. I at least know we're most likely going to get 18-ish minutes from Morris. Robert Williams, the minutes are up in the air. Powell, the floor is super low, so it's got to be Morris there for cash. Kawhi Leonard or Paul George and Siakam? It depends. I like the first one for GPP because I know both Kawhi and Lou Williams will be low-owned. So if you're going for the low-owned upside play, I think it is Kawhi, Lou Will. The safer option is probably Paul George and Siakam. Do you like Lowry, Van Fleet, Brown, Tatum, Gasol, Pat Beverly, Morris, Zubac? Yep, I think that looks good. Is JaMychal Green too risky for cash? Is he too risky for GPP? He's playable in cash. Like, if he gets 15 minutes, which I think is his floor, I don't think he absolutely kills you. It's just a tricky one, right? Because we don't know what... Like, the Clippers' big rotation is such a headache. I already answered that. Okay, let's see. Builds are elite with Boucher, so wrong with him in a gamble. I probably... I mean, you really need Ibaka to, like, aggravate his ankle. Other than that, like, Boucher maybe plays a couple minutes. So, that I probably wouldn't do that unless you're just trying to get, like, super, super risky. Like, I would not put a lot of money into Boucher. Is Monte Morris a better GPP play than Pat Beverly? It's a close one, right? They're very similar plays. Both will play about 20 minutes. Pat Beverly is going to be higher owned. So I guess Monte Morris is the better GPP play because he'll be the lowest owned, he'll be lower owned than Pat Bev. Boucher ain't playing. Yeah, something needs to happen to Ibaka. I like it when it locks. I got all green. I would be happy if Robinson hit that floor yesterday. Yeah, Duncan, how many minutes did he play? I know he got in foul trouble. And that's the risk playing guys like that is if they don't shoot well, the floor is super, super low. But I think he got in foul trouble and played like no minutes. He played 14 minutes. Like what you're expecting from Duncan that last slate was probably a floor of like 25 to 30 minutes with upside of close to 40 like we saw the previous game. And for him to get in foul trouble and only played 14 minutes, that's really tough luck. George, MPJ, Grant, Jalen, OG, Tice. Okay. George, Michael Porter Jr., Grant, or Jalen, OG, and Tice for cash. It would be George and MPJ there. JB, Lou, or OG and Van Fleet. Probably OG and... I like the upside a little bit more with Lou, but OG is probably safer. So the first for GPP, probably second for cash. Lowry, Paul George, Brown, MPJ, Green, Van Fleet, OG, and Pat. Yeah, that looks good. It could happen. Happens to Giannis 2 games ago, and Bucks all went ham. Can Marc Gasol have a big game? Probably not. I don't think he's going to have GPP winning upside, but he's at 4-1, and there's very little value. So he'll probably, again, Marc Gasol's range of outcomes usually are probably like 15 to 25 fantasy points. Van Fleet's 77% in the $5 double up. I'm not super surprised. He was low. He was cheaper than Kyle Lowry. let's see what some ownership is in this tournament. So Van Fleet at 60%, Jason Tatum 20%, and Gasol at 27%. That's what I got for me in the first game. Norman Powell coming at 27% owned. I get it, right? People are hoping he hits his shots. He's cheap. Jaylen Brown 21%. That is actually lower than I thought because he'd been higher owned the last few slates. Daniel Tice 41% owned. Smart 10%. Siakam at 40%. Let's see. Lowry's at 50%. So all three Toronto guys are pretty high owned. I got 13% on Marc Gasol. Kemba Walker 16% in the $12 single entry. Let's see. OG is 14%. Robert Williams is 5%. Ibaka only 7%. I'm not super surprised there about that. Man, I hope Walker smashes tonight. 17%. I'll take it. Yeah, that's good. Grant Williams pick up 3%. I wouldn't have played him. Good luck, everyone. Let's get this money. Yeah, good luck, guys. Trying to find Kemba. I haven't found Kemba ownership, at least in this tournament. I'm seeing a lot of those Toronto guys. Thoughts DK for single entry. Lowry, Lou, Jalen, OG, Jokic, Beverly, JaMychal, and MPJ. Yeah, I think that looks pretty decent. No issue at all with that. Kemba, 16%. I like that ownership. So yeah, all three Boston guys low owned, right? Kemba, 16%. Tatum, 20%. Brown was 21%. Whereas the Toronto guys, Van Fleet, 60%. You had Lowry at 50%, and Siakam like 40-something%. Walker and Tatum seem low owned. I agree. I'll take 20% owned Tatum. I knew he was going to be about that, like 20 to 25%. I'll take it. All right, guys. Any last minute questions, or else I'll get out of here. Hopefully we win some money. Hopefully we guess, or you guys guess right on the value plays. Hopefully they get extended. Lowry, Van Fleet, Brown, Green, Jokic, Morris, Tice, Beverly. I think that looks good. 30% Kemba, yeah. DK, Cash, and GPP, Lowry, Van Fleet, Jalen, Green, Jokic, Pat Bev, Morris, and Gary Harris. I think that looks good as well. 17% Tatum. Yeah, all three Boston guys are low owned. OG in the 20s, not bad. Yeah, he's kind of coming lower owned the last few slates. He's 14% in this one. Powell's 27%. So people are taking a shot on Powell. I have no issue with that, right? Let's see what Wanamaker is. Wanamaker's 10%. Again, I just didn't really know what his minutes going to be like today. Kemba Walker. I got Jokic and Kawhi later. I hope this game is low scoring. It has been the last 3 games, so definitely possible. All right, guys, I'm going to hop out of here. Good luck. I hope you guys all win some money. I'll have a video up. I guess we only have a showdown slate tomorrow for NBA, but I'll have a video up for it, breaking it down. So good luck, guys. Hope you win some money, and I will see you all later.